For years, the streets of El Salvador were dominated by ruthless gangs such as MS-13 and Barrio 18. These gangs didn't just commit crimes, they instilled fear in the neighborhoods, controlled the streets, and terrorized the local population. MS-13, founded in Los Angeles in the 1980s, quickly spread to El Salvador and other parts of Central America. Barrio 18, its rival, followed suit, competing for dominance. These gangs weren't only involved in drug trafficking and violent crimes, they also imposed their own laws, created fear among families, and lured young people into their ranks with promises of power and belonging.
The gangs controlled vast parts of El Salvador, especially in the capital, San Salvador. They ruled neighborhoods, smuggled drugs, extorted businesses, and even manipulated politicians. The government had tried multiple strategies over the years to fight back, but each attempt fell short. The gangs were well organized, and their influence stretched far beyond the streets. They had a significant presence in prisons as well. In 2015, El Salvador's president, Salvador Sánchez Cerén, took a bold and controversial step in response to the growing violence. Faced with an escalating crisis, he declared the emergency government policy. This policy would focus on swift, decisive actions to dismantle the gang's power. The government deployed elite security forces to target gang leaders and key members, intending to cut off their networks. The policy wasn't just about arresting gang members. It aimed to break down their resources, sever their ties with the outside world, and weaken their influence. New emergency laws were enacted, giving security forces broad powers to conduct raids, arrest gang members without delay, and impose harsh punishments. The military and police forces were authorized to take rapid action, including nighttime raids and placing entire neighborhoods under lockdown. Juanito, a former MS-13 member, had spent much of his life in the heart of this dangerous world. From a young age, he had joined the gang, rising through its ranks and becoming one of its trusted lieutenants. But as the government's operations intensified, Juanito realized his time was running out. Gang members were being arrested one by one, and the government was tightening its grip. Juanito could feel the walls closing in. One morning, Juanito woke up with a heavy heart. The operations were moving faster than expected, and he knew that he wouldn't be able to escape much longer. The gang's strongholds were being dismantled, and security forces were closing in on the territories. He understood that he had to act quickly, but not for his own sake. It was for his family. Juanito had a son, David, who had been born with a disability that left him confined to a wheelchair. He was unable to walk and would be dependent on others for the rest of his life. Juanito had always regretted not being there for his son, not being able to provide him with a better life. He had been so consumed by the gang lifestyle that he couldn't give his child what he needed, a father's love and care. His criminal life had taken him far away from the family he had built. But now, with his freedom slipping away, Juanito wanted to make one last attempt to see his son, give him some money, and leave a piece of himself with his family. Juanito decided that today would be the day. He rushed through the streets, feeling the weight of the decision he had made. Every step he took was filled with a sense of urgency, but also with the knowledge that he might not have another chance. He was walking toward his old house, hoping to make it one last time. When he reached the house, Patricia, his ex-wife, opened the door. She looked at him in shock. They had been apart for years. He had been lost to the gang world. But now, Juanito was standing there with desperation and a deep sense of regret in his eyes. Patricia, fearing the worst, said, "What are you doing here? The police are looking for you. They'll catch you." But Juanito's face was firm. "I need to see David. I need to leave him something. Please, Patricia." She hesitated, but eventually let him in. She brought their son David into the room. When Juanito saw him, his heart broke. David's face lit up when he saw his father, and for a moment, everything else seemed to disappear. Juanito went to his son and hugged him tightly. "I love you, David. I've always loved you. You've been so strong, and you're going to keep being strong." He kissed his son's forehead, trying to hold back tears. "I'm sorry I couldn't be the father you deserved, but you'll always have my love." Patricia, watching them, was overwhelmed. Juanito pulled out some money from his pocket and handed it to her. "This is for you and David. It will help you for a while. I won't be around to help, but I want you to know you both are in my heart." Patricia looked at him, sadness in her eyes. "Why did it take so long for you to come back? Why now?" Juanito looked at her, regret and sorrow in his eyes. "I've been lost, Patricia, but I'm here now. I can't change the past, but I can try to do something right for you and David." Juanito took one last look at his son, kissed him goodbye, and walked out of the house. His heart was heavy, knowing that this would be the last time he saw his family. As he walked through the streets, he could feel the security forces closing in. He knew it was only a matter of time before they would catch him. But for now, he was at peace, knowing he had done what he could for his son and his wife. The government's operations were relentless. By the time Juanito reached the outskirts of the neighborhood, he was surrounded by police and military forces. He knew it was the end. The plan to escape had failed. His only solace was that he had made things right with his family, if only for a brief moment. The next day, Juanito was arrested, along with many other gang members. The government's crackdown on MS-13 and Barrio 18 was successful, but the personal cost was high. For Juanito, the price was the loss of his freedom forever. Yet, in his heart, he carried the knowledge that he had given his son one last gift, the gift of love, even if it was too late to undo the years of mistakes.